Alright, let's begin.
Released by Square Enix in 2013 as a browser game, Kingdom Hearts Key would establish the origins of the Kingdom Hearts Dark Seeker saga. Written and directed by Tetsuya Nomura, the game would be remade and expanded upon in 2015 as a mobile game called Unchained Key, add a supplemental movie called Key Back Cover in 2017, continue the story with another act called Union Cross in 2017, and end with a final act called Dark Road in 2020. Keep in mind, all 4 segments will be recapped here as one continuous storyline. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. Long ago, in the age of fairy tales, when all the worlds were still one, within Daybreak Town, a mischievous man called the Master of Masters had an eye that could see into the future and wrote the events to come that he saw into a book of prophecies. The Master then gave 5 of his 6 apprentices, called the Foretellers, a copy of this book, but would give his 6th, named Lushu, a keyblade called the Gazing Eye. Playfully, the Master sits by a strange black box in his workshop saying the Gazing Eye Keyblade actually has no name, but it does really contain his eye, and Lushu's role is to pass down the Keyblade to successors that will ensure his eye can continue seeing the future. The fact the Book of Prophecies exists is proof Lushu succeeds in the task to come, but Lushu won't be given a copy to prevent any paradoxes. The Master then tells Lushu to keep the black box hidden and just observe for himself and with Gazing Eye everything that happens from the sidelines. The Master teases the box cannot be opened, whispering the contents to a shocked Lushu, repeating that he'll wait and see why. Later, one of the apprentices, Ira, approaches the Master, concerned about the final entry in the book, but the Master replies that in his absence, he wants Ira to try and keep the others calm. The Master then speaks of Kingdom Hearts, saying how their world is composed of many smaller but connected worlds that all share one light and one fate, though people believe the light that is Kingdom Hearts will be here forever. Ira swears to use the Keyblades to protect Kingdom Hearts from darkness, but the Master corrects him by saying that is not the purpose of the Keyblades, and repeats how the final passage of the book states there will be a great war wherein darkness prevails. He tells Ira to focus instead on what comes after, but Ira feels he at least wants to try changing the future and prevent the war. Later, the Master gives the virtuous Envy the role of observing and mediating the others when Ira takes over for the Master, reminding her of his motto, "May your heart be your guiding key, to do what one's heart feels is right." Next, the Master tells Aced his role will be to serve as Ira's right-hand man and push him to action when Ira is too serious or overthinking. Though the large man reluctantly accepts, wishing he was leader instead, the Master adds that if Aced finds Ira lacking, his role will also be to take over as leader himself. To the next apprentice, Ava, the Master repeats that the world will be lost to darkness and her role will be to keep the light alive, asking her to forget about the unions and not get involved in any battles. Instead, she is to create a new secret organization of exceptional Keyblade wielders where, like the seeds of a dandelion, they will scatter and fly to other worlds to keep the light alive. Finally, to the last apprentice, Gula, the Master tears out a page from the original Book of Prophecies and hands it to him, saying the information on it is not in any of the copies the Foretellers have. With his logical mind, Gula's role is to find the traitor hidden among them and stop them before it's too late, urging him to trust no one. Gathering everyone together, the Master reveals his newest creation, a spirit called Chirithy that will help them all like a loyal pet, and every Keyblade wielder will get one. He adds that should a wielder's heart become corrupted by darkness, their Chirithy will also turn dark and transform into a nightmare. He warns them if they do not destroy the darkness quickly enough, it will spread to others and they'll have to deal with an army of nightmares. With all roles distributed, Lushu would soon disappear with the black box and Gazing Eye, and not long after that, the Master of Masters would suddenly vanish as well. A familiar tale is told wherein once upon a time people lived in peace and enjoyed the light, but soon enough began to fight over possession of it. This created darkness in their hearts, which soon spread, swallowing the light, many people's hearts, and eventually the whole world. Fortunately, small fragments of light survived in the hearts of children, and with these fragments, children rebuilt the lost world, which became the world we live in today. Going back to those times, we now see one such child, Player, who has been granted a Keyblade which contains the power of light that can drive away darkness. They are met by a Chirithy who observes Player defeat a Heartless and gather its light, recruiting the child as a soldier against the darkness that threatens their world. Chirithy adds they are personally assigned to Player to support and guide them, explaining how they can grow their power and Keyblade with medals. Joining a faction of other soldiers called a Union, Player meets with their Union leader, a masked Keyblade Master in a white robe, who says when Player's up against foes too strong to handle alone, to work together with other Keyblade wielders, stating their friends will become their power. Defeating a raid boss Darkseid together, the Union leader points out there are others who collect the light as Player will, but not all of them have the same goal of bringing peace to the world, asking them to keep an eye out for those who walk the path of darkness in secret. Chirithy says that darkness has already found its way to other worlds, guiding player there as they check out Heartless in the worlds of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Alice in Wonderland, and Aladdin, helping the inhabitants with their problems along the way. Returning to Daybreak Town after a chance encounter with Mickey Mouse, Chirithy informs player on the Foretellers and their goal of preventing a terrible war in which the light is defeated. New Heartless appear from other worlds, finding Olympus Coliseum and Hercules afflicted as they prepare for a new tournament. In the Dwarven Woodlands, player helps find all 7 dwarves as they meet Snow White, and Chirithy comments that no matter how far apart they are, the hearts of friends are always connected. In Daybreak Town, player tries to make new friends with other kids as they band together to take out newer and stronger Heartless around town. However, some of the kids die in the battle, and it is revealed that there is a direct connection between a Keyblade wielder and their Chirithy, insomuch that when the wielder dies, so too does the Chirithy. To the side, the Foretellers observe that light is being gathered at a very rapid pace, but so too is the darkness growing, supporting the idea there really is a traitor, possibly among the 5. Elsewhere, player saves Snow White from the scheme of the Wicked Queen, though when the prince comes to revive her, Chirithy says it's no coincidence in his timing, for their hearts were actually connected by a very strong bond. Over in Olympus Coliseum, Hercules gives player his spot in the tournament, who encounters Cloud in the finals, who seems preoccupied searching for someone. Player emerges the victor, but Hercules now enters, exposing this tournament as a scheme by Hades. The god of the underworld appears to admit this is true, and player follows him back to the underworld where Hades promises to show the wielder how to get even stronger with the power of darkness. Hades explains darkness is the only true power because everything came from darkness, so controlling darkness means controlling everything. To the side, Chirithy affirms that darkness might be a shortcut to power, but warns player about heading down that road. Player finds Cloud wandering in the underworld searching for someone, but the two team up to save Hercules from another of Hades' schemes and in turn defeat the god together. Returning to Daybreak Town, player is met by Chirithy, who gives them a power bangle accessory which can strengthen the metals they use, but this is witnessed by player's actual partner Chirithy. That night, player has a dream about the Master of Masters talking to the Foretellers, but things suddenly turn into a nightmare, startling them awake. Chirithy soothes them back to sleep and turns to accuse a darker second Chirithy of interfering, but the dark Chirithy asks what Chirithy is up to instead, declaring them enemies. The next day, player is told to destroy an invisible in Waterfront Park, but when they arrive, it is dealt with by another Keyblade wielder who introduces himself as Ephemer. Ephemer tells player he is on a personal mission and lets them in on a secret that the fairy tale worlds they visit are nothing more than holograms, and the light they collect in those projections is actually this world's light. He is trying to figure out how it all works and thinks the Book of Prophecies is what is creating the holograms, wondering why they are all gathering light but also fighting over it without knowing why. Ephemer adds each of the unions actually have different goals, and player is reminded of the dream he had, sharing it with Ephemer. Together, Ephemer and player decide to sneak into the clock tower to find the master's room, but Ephemer pauses player, saying they should pause and rest for now, and promises to pick things up again tomorrow. Sightings of the Dark Chirithy reach the Foretellers' ears as they wonder who the nightmare belongs to but have no way of finding out nor proving one of them is not tainted by darkness. Ira then adds that the new bangles the wielders have are from the nightmare, or even one of them here, as it not only collects darkness but makes the wielders stronger using that darkness. Envy replies they cannot jump to conclusions on the source or function of the bangles, and instead scoffs at their leader's error made in haste, spreading paranoia. Flustered, Ira says he found there is a page torn from the Master's Book of Prophecies that does not match any of the copies, and there is no mention of a traitor in the copies, thinking the lost page must be in possession of the traitor. Envy thinks that is one possibility, but it's also possible the Master tore it out himself or gave it to someone else. Afterwards, Ased calls Gula and Ava to the side, wishing to form an alliance, as he not only thinks Ira is wasting time chasing a traitor that likely does not exist among them, but wishes to nip the nightmare problem in the bud before it spreads darkness. Gula agrees to ally with him but not combine their factions, as Ava reminds them forming new alliances was strictly forbidden by their master, and Envy enters, reminding them of the same as a way to maintain the balance of power. Consolidating power leads to darkness, and she wonders if Ased is tainted, but he counters that he knows she is a spy for Ira, suspecting her of being tainted too. Distraught, Ava sits outside when she is approached by Ephemer, and she answers his question of why the unions compete instead of cooperating with each other by saying she always wondered the same thing beyond it being the Master's instruction. On his own, Ephemer goes on ahead into the clock tower without player, as player wonders if his new friend already broke a promise but gives him the benefit of the doubt. Back in Wonderland, player saves Alice from losing her head, as Chirithy explains Alice is actually one of the precious lights of the world and needs to always be protected. Later, player has a dream about Ephemer entering the clock tower and thinks to search for him, but Chirithy forbids it, adding things are also tense between the Foretellers. Player is undeterred, asking around town and learns Ava is assembling a special group of wielders and was talking to Ephemer the other day. Sneaking back into the clock tower, player runs into Ava, asking her about Ephemer and mentioning his dream. However, wishing to test player, Ava duels him, impressed, but says the sadness in his heart will turn to darkness, urging him to let it go. That night, Ava speaks to the player's Chirithy, wondering if Ephemer sent out the dream message as he is close to the truth after having fallen into an unchained state and is now in a different realm. She adds, player is getting closer to that realm too, stepping away while telling Chirithy to protect him from nightmares. The next day, Chirithy sends player to Beast's castle, where he teams up with Beast to protect Bell and his castle from Gaston and the Heartless that follow the darkness in his heart. As player defeats the darkness and Love defeats the sadness of the cursed beast, Chirithy notes Bell is another precious light to be protected. Next, Chirithy gives the player an item to boost their resistance against darkness before a dangerous mission in the Corridor of Darkness, as it turns out this was a special mission from the Union leaders in their haste to prepare for the darkness. To the side, Gula tells Aced there hasn't been any suspicious activity recently, wishing to break up the alliance, letting slip that Envy suggested this, which enrages Aced. Deciding it's time for him to fulfill his true role and seize control of leadership, Aced directly attacks Envy, tired of her interference as Gula looks on. Envy wishes to preserve the balance of the unions, while Aced believes they need to defy the Master's orders in order to unify and protect the world and defy his prophecy of it falling into darkness. With this, Gula calls Ava over, joining Envy and declaring Aced the traitor. At the same time, while player rests, they are approached by a girl named Skuld, who already knows about him through their mutual friend Ephemer, who also sent her a dream to find player and team up with him. They think to return to the clock tower but are interrupted as shockwaves are felt throughout the city from the intensity of the foretellers now fighting amongst themselves. Skuld says Ephemer mentioned this in her dream, adding the world will disappear soon like he did. However, they are interrupted again as a new foe emerges, childlike Heartless demanding light as they are chased away by the Keyblades and Dark Chirithy appears as a full nightmare. Nightmare Chirithy says he took away everyone's light since they were fighting over it and sneeringly reveals there is no reason to hate darkness because light and darkness coexist as two halves of the same coin. He adds the three Darklings they just met used to be humans and Keyblade wielders to boot, whose weak hearts fell to darkness but are now much stronger beings for it. Chirithy demands again to know who the nightmare belongs to, but Nightmare Chirithy chuckles they are closer than they think. Over with Gula, he reviews the lost page and breaks away to speak to Aced alone, revealing its existence and its declaration of a traitor. Aced spits back Gula knew all along and just stood by as they tore each other apart and even betrayed him in the end as he beats down Gula but pauses as Ava begs for mercy. Aced is depressed to see even Ava has turned against him, sparing her and limping away. Outside, Ira waits but doesn't wish to finish off Aced and instead points out none of their roles were to try and change the future, only to ensure light lives on. To that effect, they cannot afford to lose more, telling Aced he still thinks of him as one of the lights, helping him up. Aced appreciates Ira's faith and good nature, admitting he always respected him for that, and shares he thinks Gula is the traitor because of the lost page. Hearing this, Ira heads out to find Gula, wanting to see the missing lost page for himself. Skuld and player arrive in the Master's room, finding nothing of interest, but are caught by Ira, who says he caught another Keyblade wielder snooping around here the other day too, and killed them. Outraged, player steps forward and says he doesn't care if his anger means darkness is in his heart because right now he wants to avenge Ephemer even if he loses. Player and Skuld fight and dispel Ira, which turns out to be an illusion by Ava, who says the room they are in is also an illusion, all made to test them. She reveals Ephemer went searching for the truth of their world, and she named him the new leader of her secret organization, the Dandelions. The Dandelions are exceptional Keyblade wielders who will remain after the world ends and invites Skuld and player to join. Ava also confirms Ephemer is alright somewhere else. The Nightmare Chirithy is proof this world is doomed thanks to the corrupted wielder it is connected
Actually
to,
called the
and
Dandelions,
everyone
I see.
will perish in an inevitable Keyblade war. Skuld agrees to join the Dandelions, but player doesn't, not wishing to abandon all of his doomed friends. Later, Ava blocks Ira from finding Gula, as Gula says everyone wants the lost page, wherein there is a passage about a betrayal on someone who bears a sigil, but he doesn't know who it is. Thinking of asking the Master, Gula says he will do the Forbidden Act and summon Kingdom Hearts, which will force the Master back, but needs far more light to do that. After Gula leaves, Envy approaches, saying everyone's unions are gathering more light for different reasons, but this will only strain competition between the Keyblade wielders, and it dawns on her this is how the Keyblade War starts, advising Ava to make her preparations too. Later, Skuld shares how Ephemer was her first friend when she gained a Keyblade and wants to support Ephemer now that she's become stronger since, joining the Dandelions in their briefing of how to avoid the Keyblade War, in order to survive and scatter to other worlds. Focusing on his own tasks, player helps Aladdin follow his heart and rescue his best friend Abu from a powerful Heartless, as Shirthi advises player to follow his heart too. Unfortunately, player and Skull see infighting only increase in Daybreak Town as Aset appears to tell everyone to stop fighting over light. He then tests player's strength and wins the duel as Ira calls him out for attacking a wielder. However, Aset points out every union scrambling for more light is causing more strife that will lead to war and darkness winning, saying he will create and lead a legion of the strongest wielders to maintain balance instead of the foretellers. Ira says war is inevitable and brute force won't solve anything, but ignoring him, Aset challenges Ira anyway. That night, player has a dream about seeing Kingdom Hearts in a battlefield of countless Keyblades, while at the same time Ava finds Luxu watching things from afar per his role. Luxu tells her their master will not save this world and things will play out as was written, saying this was all intentional. Ava wonders if Luxu is the traitor, and Luxu tells her he is, shocking her and adding it's possible the master was just more interested in seeing how the hearts of the foretellers were guided in all of his chaos. In response, Ava draws her blade and attacks Luxu, and the force of their clash rings out as the clock tower bell tolls, and Gula tells player and Skull this is the toll marking the beginning of the Keyblade War. Skull leaves to assemble with the Dandelions, asking player to join them again and not fight in the war. However, player again declines, asking Shirthi what happens to him if they die, and Shirthi confirms that if player dies, he does too. Nightmare Shirthi mocks them both, calling them and the Dandelions cowards, and reveals that player has not only been collecting darkness with his bangle, but using it all this time to get stronger too. It adds this was the Master's plan, as the Nightmare's very existence is proof the bangles do not convert darkness to light as claimed. Nightmare Shirthi now reveals it was actually created from player's darkness and belongs to him, making him the catalyst for the events that led to this war. It elaborates that unlike spirits, nightmares exist to plant bad dreams and won't die when their original wielders do, able to exist independently. Nightmare Shirthi now merges with Darklings, ascending into a powerful nightmare form, but falls to player's might, vanishing while saying it will return in another dream. Catching up to the march to the final battleground a few days later, player sees all 5 unions now clash at a crossroads with countless children using their Keyblades to kill each other with senseless violence. Player is stunned how everyone is no longer fighting monsters and is now slaughtering each other in a war for dominance, for a balance that doesn't exist, for a world that cannot be saved over a traitor they never found. Player refuses to participate in the madness as he fends off each of the foretellers who beat him down to the point of passing out as they strike each other with unchained ferocity. The sky fills with the millions and millions of released hearts as the foretellers disappear, absolutely everyone else on the battlefield is killed, and their Keyblades serve as grim markers in the fresh mass graveyard. Waking up, player looks to the sky as Kingdom Hearts now appears, and Ephemer and Skull now arrive, surviving as per their mission. The battle is over, but their work begins as they pick up their friend, and Luxu continues to look on. Time passes as in another world, Maleficent chuckles how Sora cannot follow her back to her original world in the past, and Dandelion leader Ephemer returns to the Keyblade graveyard where he was told by Ava he will be met by the other 4 wheelers chosen to lead the new unions. He is soon joined by Skuld and a timid but kind-hearted boy named Ventus, who is surprised he was chosen to lead when he's not particularly exceptional. They are then joined by a laid-back boy in a hat named Brain, who is a bit skeptical about the plan Ava gave them to hide the truth, pointing to the rulebook she gave them all. Ephemer recalls how Ava wanted people to avoid remembering the horrible war and events leading up to it, as they are met by the 5th chosen leader, a pink-haired boy named Lorium. After a digitally hazy dream, player now wakes up as memories of the past start to surface, and Shirthi says they have had the same dream ever since player joined the Dandelions. To the side, Shirthi hates lying to player, covering up the past and truth of the world, but accepts the new Union Cross mission to make new friends, regrow the light, and bury the sad memories. Ephemer comments that the darkness in this new world is more complex, anxious about everything that happens in this world that didn't happen in the old one. The new leaders settle into the Master's room as Brain reads the Master's works, and Ephemer wishes to change how unions operate to avoid the same civil war again. Brain then shows them the Master's research, showing them spirits, and suggests giving them as companions to the new generation of Keyblade wielders that won't have the powers of Shirthi but will be able to devour nightmares, like the one plaguing and reminding player of the past. Brain leads the effort on how to make new spirits, as player is given one while making new friends along the way. To the side, Shirthi laments how everyone has their memories rewritten, even player, thinking even the sad ones should not be forgotten as their hearts all still bear the scars. To player, Shirthi says that wielding a Keyblade is a rare thing now, and they were chosen for the light in their heart as the 2 friends share some sea salt ice cream while looking at the sunset over the town. Players then sent to the Castle of Dreams.
That sounds familiar.
Fairy Godmother help one of the precious lights of the world, Cinderella, realize her dream while defending her from the darkness spawned from her wicked stepmother. As Cinderella reunites with the prince, Chirithy mentions dreams can't come true if you believe in them, though quietly wishes they could show players such pleasant dreams. Next, players sent to Enchanted Dominion, where Sleeping Beauty is another precious light to be protected, as the princess is under a spell to make her lose her memory and does not remember the prince she met or even her true identity. Everything feels like a dream to her, as player also helps the three good fairies who warn him about the evil fairy Maleficent who placed a doom curse on the princess they are trying to prevent. Player defeats the powerful Heartless that surround the evil witch, though the princess still falls to the curse, and instead of revealing the truth, the three fairies decide to put the entire kingdom to sleep until the princess wakes again. Together, they also rescue the prince from Maleficent and help him defeat the witch to save the princess. Returning to Aladdin, they help him in his magical journey with Genie to defeat Jafar, as Chirithy mentions pretending to be someone you're not never leads to happiness. As they leave in Enchanted Dominion, Maleficent curses how she can never alter the ending, and a voice tells her it's because it knew she would arrive from the future. The mysterious voice introduces itself as Darkness, saying it knows Maleficent came here to erase her defeat from history and collect the 7 hearts of pure light, and explains to her changing the past is not easy. First, she can only return to a time where a version of herself exists and only her heart can travel, knowing this is the version of the witch from the end of Kingdom Hearts whose heart was separated by Riku, applying what she learned from Xehanort. Darkness adds the destination of Cuteness, which is why this fairy tale world was not created in the real world before the Keyblade War, revealing this is a world recreated from data. Elaborating, the fairy tale worlds before were only those from the future seen in the Book of Prophecies, and those became unreachable after the war. These worlds now, and the people in them, are recreated from data, including worlds unfamiliar to the real world, which is why events cannot be altered. Darkness adds this trap was for Maleficent in order to prevent her from taking knowledge of the past to the future, which is why only 6 worlds with pure lights were recreated and not the 7th. Darkness tells her to return to her original time, and though Maleficent replies she doesn't know how to travel to the future, Darkness tells her of a way. Back with Lauriam, he shares with Ephemer how he has been looking for someone who was supposed to have been a dandelion but cannot find them. He does find another dandelion named Elrena and asks about his little sister, who is also her teammate Strelitzia, who has gone missing. Elrena admits they worked together but weren't really friends, but does know Strelitzia often hung out on a certain rooftop as if waiting for someone. Elrena's Chirithy adds she was last searching for someone right before the bell tolls. After Lauriam leaves to find out who this someone is, Elrena decides to help him on his investigation as her Chirithy jabs at her for developing feelings for him. After hearing clues, Ephemer feels he knows who the someone who is not talkative and declined joining the Dandelions and instead joined the war is, and Skuld realizes he is talking about Player. Unfortunately, Player never actually met Strelitzia, but Lauriam says to keep her in his heart all the same. Elrena then tells Lauriam she saw a digital ghost of Strelitzia limping away and shares how his sister somehow knew a war was coming before it happened. Later, as Brain reads the Book of Prophecies, he says this world is also headed for destruction, but overriding people's memories is not changing that dark fate, and so he intends to become a virus to overwrite the program that is this world's future. More digital ghosts begin to appear as Skuld and Ventus see one of Ava with the Master, as Brain, Ephemer, and Player see their world is already beginning to glitch. They all travel to the control room as Brain explains before the Keyblade War they were able to virtually visit the future versions of worlds that currently existed and were connected to Daybreak Town through the Book of Prophecies. After the war, the worlds were no longer connected, but data versions were prepared so they could at least still visit these data recreations virtually. So, right now, from the real Daybreak Town, they travel to the data version and then to the other data worlds. However, the existence of these glitches heavily imply they have actually been in the virtual Daybreak Town, not the real one. Furthermore, this data version of Daybreak Town is somehow connected to a place that doesn't exist in this time or world. The glitches started occurring when they connected to this mysterious location, as Player and Ephemer volunteer to check it out, finding it leads them to the Game Central Station from the world of Wreck-It Ralph. Seeing glitches and darklings infesting multiple game worlds, Ephemer and Player split up to investigate as Chirithy suggests following the bad guy, Ralph, as that is usually the source of darkness in a world, but a cybug in the adjacent game eats the darkling, turning it into a new hybrid that they destroy. Ephemer tells Player to continue pursuit of Ralph while he updates the others, and Brain thinks that it's interesting the game worlds are self-aware that they are data, wondering if the real Daybreak Town still exists. He suspects someone is behind all this and designed this data Daybreak Town to be cut off from the real world on purpose. Back with Player, he follows Ralph through the events of Wreck-It Ralph, finding it was a wicked mayor who was the virus causing the Heartless, reveals Eraser Girl was actually a princess, and fights a massive Darkling monster that keeps saying "not you" to Player. It escapes when defeated, but Shirthi wonders if the Darklings are drawn to the Keyblade wielders like how Cybugs are drawn to a beacon, and later notes like Vanellope, another version of a person can be hiding inside of their heart, possibly even a dark version. At this time, we see 5 years ago when the Master of Masters tells Luxu not only was there a Keyblade war when he was a child, also between light and darkness, but it's still going on even now. He adds darkness continues to evolve and can even look like a human, which is part of the problem. Destroying the world and rebuilding it will buy time, as he says on the back cover. Ava will build an elite team and set them on that dark road, starting at Key, becoming Unchained, and fulfill their duty through Union Cross.
Oh, come on.
Luxu doesn't like such a
How many credit rolls do we need?
They will have to keep running from the darkness and hates the idea of just waiting for a solution to appear. The Master says there is a way to beat the darkness, but it will take a lot of time, planning, and franchise installments, and destroying this world as a step forward will separate the connected worlds and sever the notion of time among them. The Master then explains the darkness can be communicated with, but they are incomprehensible, unpredictable, and good at playing mind games. However, they have an aversion to those who are pure of heart. Regardless, the book tells of a future with light. As he mentions, darkness shed its form in order to attack their hearts, claiming several of his friends. Elaborating, darkness either forms into a heartless or seeks a body with a strong heart, and it turns out you can only truly destroy darkness in a vessel with a strong heart. Before Luxu objects, the Master says he did not train anyone to just be sacrificial lambs, but to build resilience to withstand darkness even if it takes over their hearts. There are 13 darknesses, and of those 13, he intends to trap the 7 strongest of them in the hearts of himself and the 6 disciples. After that, they will go their separate ways to destroy the darkness wherever they end up, and this is the true purpose of the Keyblade War. The note about the traitor was just to instill doubt and paranoia so darkness could take hold in each of the foretellers, and he needed conflict and tragedy to make the emotions as strong as possible to bait the 7 strongest darknesses. The remaining 5 darknesses will feed on the new Union leaders, and the last one will be trapped in this world. Luxu is disgusted at the cost of human lives involved, but the Master says not to let sentiment cloud his judgment against his formless foe. He assures Luxu he has a safety plan so no one is sacrificed as Luxu takes his leave to begin his role. The Master wishes him well, knowing he is the key to the future, stating Luxu is the real traitor. Later, he tells Ava of her role, adding the new Union leaders will keep their memories as the other Dandelions will have their memory altered to forget the war. He hands her the list of the names of the 5 new Union leaders, with only one of them circled and chosen to get a copy of the Book of Prophecies. About a year passes and Ava begins forming her Dandelions, starting with Ephemer as one of the chosen leaders as he gets a book with the rules they are to obey. Next, Brain would not easily agree to being a secret leader, feeling like a pawn in a bigger game, and Ava agrees, handing him the Book of Prophecies and saying no one else should read it. She puts the list of the names of the other Union leaders on the page where their fates are written and trusts him to understand her message when the time comes. Intrigued, he accepts, as elsewhere we now see Strelitzia, who first really noticed Player the day Ephemer broke his promise to enter the clock tower together. She has actually very frequently noticed Players, as their paths had crossed many times across many worlds, but she never mustered the courage to even greet him once, but wanted to. She would continue watching Player from afar with growing feelings and wished to be friends, but soon enough Ava would select her to be a Union leader in her Dandelions. Knowing the truth, she wanted to make sure Player would survive as a Dandelion, determined to finally meet him directly. However, as she waited somewhere she heard he was sighted at with Skuld, a darkness sneak attacked her and delivered a fatal blow, stealing her Union leader rulebook. Trying to limp away, a dying Strelitzia would begin to tear up that she had just gotten the courage to talk to Player as she passes on. Back in the present, Maleficent now arrives in day-to-day Breaktown as Brain reads the message Ava left him, learning not only was Strelitzia originally chosen to be a Union leader, but she was also to receive the Book of Prophecies. He meets with Ephemer to reveal he was given the Book of Prophecies as insurance in case the data copy rules did not work out, but he also shows him Ava's note, showing he was not chosen to receive the book by the Master of Masters. Brain realizes Ava gave him the book as a way to try and defy fate and rewrite the future, but replacing Laurium's sister as a leader was not intended by anyone. It now begins to snow in day-to-day Breaktown as Ventus asks Skuld if she wants to build a snowman, as Brain's Cheerthy gathers them all together for a meeting where Brain exposes the unexplained leader is Ventus. Ventus insists Ava spoke to him, and Brain, knowing darkness can disguise and hide in others, thinks at some point darkness pretended to be Ava, as Ventus admits his memory is fuzzy on details. Suddenly, a memory of killing Strelitzia flashes to Ventus as pain grips him and they decide to return to the tower. Meanwhile, darkness guides Maleficent to the clock tower, which leads to the real world and then to a hidden lifeboat that will move at the speed of light to break the time barrier and get back to the future. However, her body will be lost and only her heart will remain, but she can grow a new body as long as she has a medium and someone with memories of her. Darkness tells her to consider them her old friend, as she will act as a waypoint where someone from this time could find their way to her. As she is about to enter a lifeboat, Maleficent is halted by Lauriam, and though they clash, she is defeated by the powerful fairy who gets away. Passing out, he dreams of Strelitzia when she was considering becoming a dandelion like him, but was held back by a crush on Player, and he encouraged her to believe in herself more. However, the dream changes when she disappears and now appears in a white robe before him, as elsewhere Maleficent is back in the real world, having used one lifeboat to travel across worlds and will now use another to travel across time. Back with the group, Brain is convinced there is darkness in this world with them, and as Ventus sleeps, his memories return where he recalls darkness hid inside of him and controlled him, killed Strelitzia, took her book and the form of Ava, and pretended to recruit Ventus as a leader. Ventus wakes up with tears in his eyes at the horrible act he was accomplice to as Lauriam enters, hearing the grim fate of his sister, angrily demanding to know more. Brain states this is part of Darkness's plan to divide them with doubt and anger, as Ventus assumes responsibility, prompting Lauriam to fly into a rage and nearly strike him down. Ventus cries out it wasn't him, as Darkness now leaves his body and greets them all, saying all it did was grant Ventus's deep desire for power and admits Strelitzia was randomly chosen. Darkness easily bats aside Lauriam's grief-stricken strike, saying it has already decided Ventus would harbor Darkness as per the parts it personally read of the Book of Prophecies. It adds it is old friends with the Master of Masters, but is not an ally of light, as Brain, Ephemer, and Skuld all attack but are quickly defeated as Darkness claims its goal is infection and spreading the infection across the hearts connected across the world. The Darkness adds it is many and one.
Brain's Keyblade looks very familiar to me.
And through Ventus, they would be split into pure darkness and pure light, each with a distinct and separate will. Lauriam accepts it was Darkness, not Ventus, who killed his sister, and just in time, Player returns to join the fight. Darkness tells them it already lost, as once the lifeboat was used, its failsafe function sealed the digital Daybreak Town, intending to trap the Darkness in it while the world was destroyed. Despite their best efforts, the Keyblade wielders cannot destroy their formless foe, as Darklings now enter, surrounding Ventus and claiming he is the one they are looking for. However, pure light now bursts forth from Ventus, killing the former Keyblade wielders fall into darkness and turns to darkness, saying what was made can be unmade, reforming the darkness that used him into a form they can defeat. By himself, Ventus clashes with the darkness, sealing it within himself just as what was written. Meanwhile, the darkness in the real Daybreak Town looks on the data world as it is called out by Luciu as he uses one of the real-world lifeboats to place a person wrapped in a white cloth inside, calling them the true dandelion and seed of light to be planted in the future. Darkness recalls the Master once telling them the world will end when all 7 of the lifeboat pods depart, and adds he doesn't know everything that happens, just what the Keyblade he gave Luciu sees. He stressed what was important is not what is written in the book, but when it was written, as it will serve as a waypoint to enable travel to the future. He reminded Darkness that Luciu will remember him, and his eye in the Keyblade is the medium, so he has a secure route to the future, a necessary step in his plan to travel alongside the 7 lights in the pods. Back with Ephemer, the fight is over as Ventus rests and Lauriam apologizes to him, and he recalls what Ava told him in that when a world is shrouded in darkness, it actually just goes to sleep, giving him some hope against despair. Elrena arrives to see Lauriam, sharing news that a few days ago, someone in a white robe who looked like Strelitzia was seen in town walking with someone in a black coat. Wondering how that could be, Brain realizes this world is a copy of the real Daybreak Town before the war, so that means a digital copy of Strelitzia must have been made too. Lauriam says if everyone was copied, then there should be copies of them as well, and Brain says that is likely true, hidden somewhere, to which the brother wonders if this means his sister can be saved somehow. Brain isn't sure, but knows they should use the lifeboats to escape back to the real world, as over in the real world, Luciu draws his Keyblade on the darkness, explaining he understands the more the darkness lacks a physical form, the more its will fades. He recalls it had a physical form when the Master was a child, but it shed it to defeat the light, but realized it could not maintain its will, and so steals the bodies of those with wills to survive. He then says he knows besides it there are 5 more willful shadows with their own will, and the darkness confirms they are stuck behind in the data world while it escaped with Maleficent. Back with the group, they find of the 7 lifeboats only 5 remain, as one was destroyed and another stolen by Maleficent. They see the world is falling apart and they need to decide the 5 who will go in the pods and the rest will go to sleep when the world is swallowed by darkness. They decide to send Brain, Elrena, and Ventus back to the real world, and Skuld tells Lorium to take the last pod if there is even a chance to get Strelitzia back. Elrena is grateful and promises to help Lorium find his sister, as Player says he's not going to abandon Ephemer. Brain says he has an idea of how to use the last pod, giving Ephemer his Keyblade and the Book of Prophecies. The 4 return to the real world, but Brain sees he doesn't have enough time to get the other 3 out as planned. Quickly, he has another idea to return 2 of the lifeboats back to the data world, but wishes to first ensure Lorium and Elrena escape from this world safely. He tells them to keep hope alive, but doesn't know where or when they will be sent to, as Ventus, Elrena, and Lorium are sent away. Just then, Luciu enters and speaks with Brain, telling them the data world is built to trap darkness. Also, the lifeboats are incomplete, and whoever uses them needs a vessel to occupy and someone with memories of them at the destination. In the data world, the 4 trapped darknesses corner the trio, demanding they open a gate before they leave. Ephemer tells Player to use the last lifeboat to escape, but Player suddenly strikes back at both of them, speaking as if possessed. He is about to strike down Skuld, forcing Ephemer to shoot a beam of light straight through Player, opening a gate that takes away the darknesses and Player. He tearfully apologizes just as the lifeboats sent by Brain arrive, and he quickly escapes the data world with Skuld. Meanwhile, Player arrives at Game Central Station, laughing at the 4 darknesses, saying he was only pretending to be possessed, and locks the world from this side, stating they are all trapped in here with him. He drops as his wounds catch up to him, hugging Chirithy, as we now see the last moments of the Master of Masters years ago, where he tells the darkness with him that he intends to travel to a world of fiction he cannot conceive, where neither light nor darkness rules. He notes people like to believe in the future even if they won't be around to see it, and says if you imagine hard enough, you can make anything a reality. Ephemer and Skuld arrive in the real world, look outside and see how hopeless things are as their world is being swallowed by darkness, and return to the pods to escape. Skuld thanks him for his friendship in the end, and Ephemer says it's not over yet, tearfully remembering his friendship with Player as he arrives in a post-apocalypse Daybreak town, now a water world. Meanwhile, Elrena and Lorium arrive in the Dwarven Woodlands together as Ventus is in a wasteland where he is found by Xehanort. Luciu continues his mission, taking off his hood as he trudges ahead to reveal he is now disguised to look like Brain. Brain, however, arrives in Scala ad Caelum, where a man named Sigurd greets him as if expecting him, handing him back his hat. Sigurd says they knew when and where Brain would arrive escaping Daybreak Town, saying he is the only one of his friends to arrive at this time. Sigurd then takes Brain to see a statue of Ephemer, founder of Scala ad Caelum, and named the original Keyblade Master. Meanwhile, Player whites out and finds himself looking at all of the hearts he is connected with, seeing their hearts be taken in by their spirits to turn into Dream Eaters. Chirithy explains when their partners die, their Chirithys die too, but when their partners go to sleep, their Chirithys become their protectors. Chirithy then tells Player he is in a unique position where he can choose not to go to sleep and instead his heart will melt into a new one. Taking this option, Player decides to be reborn, as we now jump ahead in his second life where he is given a baby to take away from Scala ad Caelum and raises in secret on the Destiny Isles. One day, the old man tells the child named Xehanort that his great-great-grandfather was a renowned Keyblade wielder and he is a child of destiny that will one day save the world from darkness. For now, they are on this island so darkness cannot find them, but one day when he's strong enough, Xehanort will leave and Xehanort wonders if he can see his mom again or the kids in his dreams. Describing the kids, including how Skuld resembles his mother, Player is shocked to hear him describe his old friends as he feels emotional, hugging Xehanort and telling the child he has a special ability to sense what is in the hearts of others. Player says he has lived 2 lifetimes and Xehanort's empathic abilities prove he is the child of destiny, adding the child could connect the hearts of others and would come from the Destiny Isles. Years pass and
So this is the player's fault.
tells Xehanort the boy can leave now and his heart will connect to others, warning him not all hearts are good. Finally, Player tells Xehanort his great-great-grandfather Ephemer was his best friend, remembering him and also himself wearing yellow clothes, as he passes on and leaves Xehanort alone. Soon after, Xehanort is approached by a man in a brown cloak who calls himself his waypoint and says he is Xehanort's waypoint. Unaware he is talking to a version of himself, Xehanort steps through the gate open for him to take him to Scala ad Caelum where he enrolls as a student. Xehanort makes a friend with fellow student Ericus, sharing the same sense of curiosity, and one day while playing chess, Xehanort ponders what happened to Kingdom Hearts after it appeared in the aftermath of Keyblade War. Xehanort also brings up the Lost Masters who started the war and looks over to the Gazing Eye mounted atop their classroom. A year passes as the time comes for the Mark of Mastery for the upperclassmen. Ericus meets with another classmate named Balder, who is nervous for his sister, as it sounds like not everyone is expected to return from the exam at all. One of the test takers, Vidar, is warned by Master Odin of the true darkness. Originally, there were 13 of these primitive darkness, though 7 were sealed in the hearts of the ancient Keyblade Masters, called the Lost Masters. 4 more were trapped in the realm between of another world, and 2 more were allegedly destroyed when the world collapsed. A week later, their studies are halted one day when Master Odin informs them 7 of the upperclassmen have gone missing during their training for the upcoming Mark of Mastery exam. The 7 underclassmen here will be assigned to form a search party and find them. One of their classmates, Balder, is on a separate assignment, so the remaining 6, Ericus, Xehanort, Hermid, Bragi, Erd, and Erd's younger sister, Vor, will form 2 teams of 3 and search several worlds. As the only one among them who even comes from another world, Xehanort tells his friends what to expect in terms of differences of completeness, time flow, and even world rules between all the worlds. Donning their Keyblade armor to protect them from darkness, they use their Keyblades as vehicles to travel between worlds. Investigating the worlds of Aladdin and Alice in Wonderland, the underclassmen don't find the missing students, but they do find Heartless, but more dangerously, darkness in the hearts of others. Wondering if someone touched by darkness is behind this, both Xehanort and Ericus, to their mutual surprise, recall at the same time what Brain once said, and that darkness can hide anywhere, even inside a person. Xehanort feels learning more about the darkness can help them find the others, wondering if any of them fell to darkness, recalling that Ericus's grandfather, Brain, once fought darkness too. As the students check out the world of Snow,
That's why he has that Keyblade.
all-knowing magic mirror that their missing upperclassmen are separated still, but as Ericus asks about one named Vidar, it turns out he was actually nearby. He explains he still has something he needs to do, asking for the help of Vor specifically, and she agrees, leaving with him. Ericus is concerned about Vor, choosing to return with Bragi, while Xehanort, Hermid, and Erd continue the search elsewhere. They arrive at Beast's castle, hearing people with Keyblades were spotted as they help Beast find his lost rose. Erd falls into a trap by Heartless, but is saved by Vala, one of the missing upperclassmen, who says she was actually waiting for them. Vala says she thinks Erd can help her with her goal, and Erd recalls Vidar said the same to Vor, but Erd refuses, saying her mission is to take them home. Vala shrugs, saying they'll meet again, as another upperclassman named Vali returns Beast's rose they stole, claiming it is essential to the world's order. Xehanort witnesses the whole thing as the event weighs on Erd as they return to Agrabah and are tricked by Jafar to retrieve the magic lamp. They are soon surprised to spot Ericus entering the Cave of Wonders after the same thing, and Erd explains what she learned from Vala, and Xehanort thinks the upperclassmen are trying to steal what is essential to each world's order. As they find the lamp, on cue, Vidar and Vor enter to take the lamp, explaining they need to disrupt each world in order to find a true light that shines in the ensuing darkness, which they can use to defeat darkness. Ericus isn't so sure the ends justify the means, and Vidar states in order to defeat the true darkness, they need to gather 7 strong lights and replace the ones they've lost. Bitterly, Vidar adds they've been so focused on what they've been taught, like do not disturb a world's order, that they have lost sight of what's important, and now they've lost so many friends it has become clear darkness needs to be defeated at any cost. He tells Ericus they want the same thing, but need 7 lights strong enough to battle the darkness, and leaves the choice of disrupting the world order to him. Ericus admits he isn't prepared to do absolutely anything to win, and Xehanort says he doesn't have to choose today, but one day when he's a master, he may have to. Choosing to leave the world order alone, they return to Master Odin to brief him on their findings and how the upperclassmen are disrupting the worlds to find a true light able to beat true darkness. Odin explains the true darkness is an ancient enemy from which
They keep going to some pretty high extremes for these plans they have.
The only way they know to defeat it is to trap it in a vessel, being a person's heart, and destroy the vessel. It is possible Kingdom Hearts can destroy the darkness, but summoning it is forbidden, least of which 7 pure lights that can shine in the darkness of chaos are needed to even reveal it. Summoning Kingdom Hearts is said to purge the worlds, but it is uncertain if this will also destroy the darkness too, and regardless is an extreme measure. Hearing this is Vidar's plan, Odin tells the lower classmen the rescue mission is called off, saying the Dark Seeker will soon be upon them. The students wonder about the upperclassmen they didn't find, as their absent classmate Balder now returns, saying he was assigned to study the different types of darkness. After being caught up, Balder says he visited the underworld in his travels and confirms his sister Hoder, who went missing, is indeed dead. Elaborating, he found her in Enchanted Dominion fighting Maleficent in her dragon form as she sacrificed herself to save him when he failed to help. Balder takes them to Olympus Coliseum where Bragi makes a deal with Hades to get them into the land of the dead, and they find it awfully suspicious Balder is strangely adept in the strong darkness down here. Ericus and Xehanort find the souls of the 4 missing upperclassmen who all died during the mission, Sigrun, Helgi, Heimdall, and Hoder. The upperclassmen were unaware of Vidar's plan to summon Kingdom Hearts and purge the worlds, as they were all about to leave the Enchanted Dominion when they noticed Hoder missing. Fearing she went to confront Maleficent on her own, Sigrun, Helgi, and Heimdall rushed to help her just to see her vanish after being killed. Unfortunately, they all died in the battle against the evil fairy, waking up in a world with a never-ending sky and ocean as just hearts with no bodies. As hearts, they noticed there wasn't much difference between light and darkness in a heart, and it may be more a matter of belief. Before they fade away, they wish the young students well as Hoder asks Xehanort a favor, but when they return to Erd and Hermit, they learn another of their classmates has just died, but a gate opens up to the Corridor of Darkness, taking them all away before they can learn who. Donning their armor to buy them time before the darkness consumes them, Xehanort and Ericus search for their separated friends. However, Hermit says it's too late for him as he feels darkness already claiming his heart as Erd looks up to see someone familiar, thinking they are here to help, but both students are struck down and left to die alone in the corridor. Xehanort and Ericus begin to falter as well, but they are rescued just in time by Master Odin. Back in Skala ad Kylum, Odin is shocked by the tremendous loss they have endured, but is surprised to hear they encountered Baldur, stating that's impossible. Suddenly, they feel a heavy rumble as Odin takes the gazing eye while leaving to handle the issue, and Xehanort is unsurprised, suspecting Baldur is behind this and the deaths of Hermit, Erd, and Bragi. He explains ever since Baldur lost his sister, his sadness made him weak to darkness, and Ericus leaves to try to purge him of darkness and save a friend. Vidar, Vala, and Vali return at this time, and Vidar reveals he knew Baldur was chosen as
If you're about to fight Cognitive Walkabout, don't worry too much about the first phase, just don't die.
The deaths of his friend as Xehanort talks him down. Vidar gives up his plan to summon Kingdom Hearts and says Vor went ahead to find Master Odin as a darkness-filled Baldur appears to taunt them by going after Vor next. Baldur reaches Vor first, as we see in the week following the loss of his sister, Baldur began to resent everyone for failing to save her and did not care for a world without her anymore. It was then darkness appeared, recommending he purge this hopeless world by plunging 13 lights into darkness. Speaking for itself, the darkness says it was the one who finished off a weakened Hoder, and from then on took advantage of Baldur's form to kill Heimdall, Helgi, Sigrun, Bragi, Erd, and Hermit. Now he encroaches upon Vor just as the group catches up to fend him off, but in response, Baldur releases a powerful Heartless that instantly strikes down and kills Vidar, Vala, and Vali. In a single stroke, Baldur kills Vor as well as she apologizes before passing on, and Baldur counts the 11 fallen lights so far. The darkness claims 13 lights must be given to the shadows in order to summon Kingdom Hearts, which would purge the world and then it would be reborn in darkness. It then adds Vidar's plan would not have worked, but it did set him up on that path with Hoder's death, though when Vidar got cold feet, this prompted its intervention. Together, Xehanort and Ericus fend off and stagger Baldur, but as Xehanort moves to finish him, the darkness raises a shadow veil and privately tells the student that it's not a true darkness, and that hearts are not ruled by just light or just darkness. It says it is just the unknown, and fear of it gave it shape and form, born from the fear in everyone else's hearts until it became his own. As it turns out, Baldur was particularly sensitive to the hearts of others, just like Xehanort. Just then, light from within springs forth as Hoder's soul was hiding within Xehanort's heart ever since the underworld. She attempts a sneak attack on the darkness, though it fails, but just then chains of light bind Baldur as Master Odin appears. Hoder strikes again, but Baldur does the same as they exchange blows. Hoder fades away, and Baldur tells Xehanort one day, just like him, others will confuse his strength for darkness and rally against him. Baldur tells Xehanort to seek answers to this injustice as Xehanort strikes him down once and for all, and Odin remarks how cruel destiny can be. 1 month later, Xehanort places flowers at the graves of each of his classmates as Ericus says Odin wants him to take the Mark of Mastery exam so that he can retire and settle down in a smaller, quieter world. As they walk away, Lucian now appears, reflecting how since the underworld he accepted Baldur was not the chosen one, revealing he is using Bragi's body as a vessel himself and only faked his death earlier. He walks away to continue his role, commenting how Xehanort could be useful. A year passes as Xehanort walks through the corridors of darkness during his training for his Mark of Mastery exam, reflecting on the journey and loss endured, as he wonders if his heart is strong enough to withstand the darkness without his armor. He unequips it, but is quickly knocked out as he is found by the Master of Masters, who calls him the Singularity. When Xehanort wakes up, the Master hands him a dark hooded robe, saying it's more effective protection against darkness, even if less fashionable than his armor, which is more suited for combat. The Master hears of the Mark of Mastery exam, calling it tedious, but asks Xehanort to try looking into the hearts of others, seeing what really constitutes light or darkness, and tell him what he observes. Xehanort ventures out and returns, saying he sees now how much darkness is in the hearts of people who claim to be virtuous and good, and how weak people feel the need to justify their actions to maintain a sense of self alongside delusions of power. The Master says Xehanort will one day outgrow the need for a code to protect him from darkness, as darkness cannot control someone who has great power. In fact, at that point, a person can control darkness instead, revealing he is a lost master. After another year, Xehanort meets with Ericus again as they play another game of chess and reflect on their separate journeys. Xehanort muses about living 14 more lifetimes to do everything he wants to do, as Ericus says he wishes to stay true to light and from there can help anyone who strays to darkness. Ericus jabs at his friend, knowing he'll need his help, and Xehanort thanks his friend for always being there for him. After they become Keyblade Masters, Xehanort declares Kingdom Hearts is the only way to his goal, and Ericus reminds them they have duties now as Keyblade Masters, pointing out Xehanort was even given a Keyblade from the Lost Masters, the Gazing Eye. Xehanort replies that in the 9 years he's been here, he's thought about what it means to protect the world and came to this conclusion. Seeing no other choice, Ericus draws his blade on Xehanort to try and fail to force him to drop the idea. Decades later, Ericus confronts Xehanort on why he seeks the Keyblade, and Xehanort replies he wishes to learn the truth of the Keyblade War, especially about the precious light that appeared when light fell to darkness. Ericus refuses to allow Xehanort to start an apocalypse out of curiosity, drawing his Keyblade but drawing the Gazing Eye. Xehanort reveals he also wields the darkness, scarring Ericus with a warning shot. 10 years later, Xehanort...
That's a flashback that happened at Birth by Sleep.
The friends of player he never met were ever real, and is shocked to learn they were, as it also reveals...
Well, not a flashback, but like a scene outside the main characters.
Xehanort ends up taking Ventus to Ericus, apologizing to his friend, as Ericus is fine letting the past be as water under the bridge. Xehanort says he feels Ventus is the destined child, and Ericus would do a better job mentoring him as he takes his leave. With Vanitas lurking nearby, Xehanort replies how of the 13 primitive darknesses, the 7 strongest one were trapped in the bodies of the 7 lost masters, 4 more were trapped by player in a data world, and the last 2 were supposed to be destroyed when the world ended. However, one survived and disguised itself as an ally of light and tells Vanitas that Ventus's heart was not split into light and darkness, and Vanitas was not born from it. Xehanort guesses Vanitas merely inhabited his heart and wonders where he really came from as events continue into Birth by Sleep. Kingdom Hearts Union Cross has enjoyed the success of having over 10 million players worldwide.
Well, alright. So now I pretty much know everything. It's all Lushu's fault. But I don't know if... Like, it's really hard to say whose fault it really is. But I'm casting some deep suspicion on the original master. He gave everybody some different shit to do. Didn't explain shit. Bruh. And then Xehanort becomes the main character of Dark Road, which I guess is why it's called Dark Road. So now we know what his deal is, but that's...
The Master says there is a way to beat the darkness, but it will take a lot of time, planning, and franchise installments, and destroying this world...
Franchise installments. Yeah. That's like the only joke in the video, but it's a good joke. Well, that's it. I don't know what I'm gonna do now, because that right there was all of it. I feel like I know a satisfactory amount of the backstory now. I don't have any motivation to watch another video about it.